A brilliant teen with a bright future is cut down in her prime.
The way she left this earth, it wasn't supposed to be.
It can't be real. You know, this is just not real.
But did a moment of passion lead to her untimely demise?
What's wrong?
She wanted to have sex with you.
Yeah, but I didn't really want to.
I definitely knew she was attracted to him. I mean, we're young, you know, that happens.
The search for the truth sends detectives deep into a world of teenage drama.
He wanted to still mess around and be with other people.
In a love triangle, there's also jealousy.
And the only way to unmask the killer is to untangle a web of deceit.
You give your gun. Either he's lying or you're lying. That's what we're trying to figure out.
October 2nd, 2009, 6 p.m. It's a quiet Friday evening when June Harper pulls into a shopping complex in the Miami suburb of Miramar, Florida.
This was a shopping plaza on the actual border of Miramar and Miami Gardens, which is Miami-Dade County.
As she parks her car, June notices a woman that appears to be sleeping in a nearby vehicle.
She doesn't think anything of it at the time. She goes into the supermarket, shops, comes back out.
When June sees that the woman is in the same slumped-over position she was an hour ago, it's cause for concern.
She realizes that something's not quite right. So she tries to wake her up.
By then, another shopper comes along.
The women continue to try to wake the driver.
Miss, can you hear me?
But there's no response.
Miss!
The woman behind the wheel isn't moving.
Fearing for the young woman's safety, June tries the driver's side door and finds it unlocked.
Oh, honey.
It was obvious that she was pregnant when she was found on the scene.
What happened?
There was a small amount of blood on her dress.
Call 911 quick!
Moments later, first responders arrive.
We found her like this.
Okay, can you
She's
step
not
back for me?
breathing.
They check for vitals, but realize it's already too late.
There's no reviving her. She's dead.
But who is she?
We got a young black female, pregnant, with braids, driving a green Excursion. Can you start major crimes, please?
Shortly after calling in the body, Miramar police receive an important clue from the Broward County Sheriff's Department.
The dispatcher informed them that they were working a missing persons case of a female, and she was last seen in exactly the same type of car that we had.
She was a 17-year-old girl. According to the missing persons report, the 17-year-old girl was 30 weeks pregnant.
In the report, the missing girl is identified as Stephanie Rabsat. Growing up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Stephanie Rabsat was a kind young woman, adored by her father, Ricky, and stepmother, Betty.
She just always wanted to give and not too much receive, and just such a sweetheart.
She was just perfect. She was like a gift from God in my life.
Special in every way, Stephanie also had a brilliant mind.
She loved to read and she loved to be on the computer. She was a computer whiz. I had to tell her to slow down. When she used to try to teach me stuff on the computer, I had to tell her, slow down now, you know, I'm not as young as you are. But her thing was books and being on the computer. Very intelligent.
It took her minutes to understand the kinds of things that it would take somebody else hours. You could just tell, you know, she was always thinking.
I see such a bright future in her. As a dad, I was expecting greatness.
At the age of 16, Stephanie applied to the prestigious McFadder Technical Center in Davie, Florida.
McFadder Technical Center is a magnet school for talented and gifted kids. You have to have exceptional Florida testing scores.
I've got something for you. Take a look at that.
I got in.
Of course you did. I am so proud of you, baby.
While Stephanie and her family were overjoyed at this new opportunity, it did come with one big adjustment.
McFadder was on the opposite end of Broward County from Fort Lauderdale, where her dad and stepmom lived.
So in 2008, Stephanie moved in with her biological mother, who lived in Miramar, not far from her new school.
Yeah, it was really good today.
She had lived with her father for most of her life.
I let her go because she was really getting involved with a computer, so I didn't want to hold her back.
At McFadder, Stephanie was definitely in her element.
It's only for the smartest of the smartest. Very, very vigorous.
As the new girl in school, Stephanie immediately turned heads.
She always had the perfect body and beautiful complexion. Everything about her just shined her beauty. Her personality, such an amazing personality.
She was like a new day, a breath of fresh air, a flower blowing in the wind that you didn't want to let go.
Stephanie was very sweet. She loved to laugh. She loved to smile. She was an old soul. Like, she was so responsible. She never went off and did like crazy things.
She had a lot of boys that was trying to talk to her or whatever, but as far as I know, she wasn't into boys.
She was more into studying and just being in the computer and learning.
But in the fall of Stephanie's junior year at McFadder, 17-year-old Jermaine Babs, a student at neighboring Nova High School, would change all of that.
You were at the football game last weekend, weren't you?
Yeah, that was me.
Nova High School was right next door to McFadder Technical Center.
McFadder and Nova students rode bus together.
Like Stephanie, Jermaine excelled in school and loved computers.
He liked to play video games. That was his thing. He loved playing video games.
But rather than a shared interest in computers, what drew them together was something far more primal.
She told me that he was cute, that she liked him.
He wasn't gonna make any magazine covers or anything like that, but he was a good-looking kid. Some people have baby faces, and he looked like a really nice young man. He was not somebody who was unaware of how attractive he could be.
Soon, the couple's innocent flirting turned into something much more serious.
There was a huge sexual attraction.
They have a really passionate relationship. They both were in need of some type of affirmation and love and acceptance.
And just 5 months after they met, Stephanie and Jermaine's passion produced an unexpected surprise.
What's wrong?
I have something to tell you.
What is it?
I'm pregnant.
How far along?
About 2 months.
They weighed their options and they decided to keep the baby.
For Stephanie, breaking the news to her family was one of the toughest things she ever faced.
She was expected to follow the rules and do the right thing, and being pregnant was something so outside of what was expected of her.
I'm at work on my lunch, and she called me, and we were talking. And then she said, "Mommy, I got something to tell you." I said, "What?" And she said, "I'm pregnant."
I was very, very surprised and hurt at the same time.
But once the initial shock wore off, Stephanie's family embraced her pregnancy.
We told her, so you can continue to finish school and go to college. We was gonna raise her baby until she was able to do it on her own. We were gonna do whatever we had to do.
Her family was 100% on board. They were so supportive.
With her family's support, Stephanie impressed everyone by keeping up a rigorous academic schedule, even while preparing for her baby's impending arrival.
Having the baby wasn't gonna hinder her. It was that push, it was that drive to just keep going, to succeed.
Had a college in mind, had a career in mind. She was not just gonna graduate from college and not do anything. More so, if anything, with her becoming pregnant, she knew she had to be a mom and support her son. She was gonna do anything and everything that she had to, so she really persisted.
Though the pregnancy wasn't planned, the fact that Jermaine was a good kid from a solid family helped make everyone feel more comfortable.
His stepdad was a deputy with the Broward County Sheriff's Office.
He was a very responsible and a very respectful kid.
He had some kind of a value set to his life, so it kind of felt a little bit more at ease.
Jermaine's parents also showed their support for the young couple.
They were happy to be there for her and Jermaine and excited about having a new child in the family.
And with just a few weeks to go until the due date, Stephanie, Jermaine, and their families were getting ready to celebrate.
Jermaine's mother, along with Stephanie's mother, decide together to throw them a baby shower. The moms, the grandmas, were ready and willing to accept the baby.
I remember her being super excited about it. I remember her giving me the invitation. I remember her handing the invitation out to the other girls.
Both families were rallying around this new child, and they were excited.
But no one was happier than Stephanie.
She was very, very excited that she was gonna be having a boy.
She was ready to meet him. She was ready to hold him, to see what he looked like.
She already had a name for the child, Jaden.
But now, just 2 months away from the birth of her son, it's clear that Stephanie will never know the joy of holding baby Jaden.
Police run the tags on the vehicle, and they find that it is registered to Stephanie's mother and stepfather.
We are able to see driver's license pictures on our computer, and we compared it to the person that was inside the car, and it was indeed her, Stephanie Rapsett.
Within minutes of receiving the awful news, Stephanie's family arrives at the scene.
We drove down there, and sure enough, you see the yellow tape, the crime scene van, the police cars.
It was so dark and cold and so deep in my heart, so much hurt. So much hurt.
But as devastating as the news of Stephanie's death is, the investigation into what happened will only magnify the horror and heartbreak.
Her underwear is off of her, so there may have been some sort of sexual contact before she died.
What happened in that car?
October 2nd, 2009, police in Miramar, Florida have just identified a pregnant young woman found dead in a shopping center parking lot.
Broward Sheriff deputies informed us that they were working a missing persons case of a female by the name of Stephanie Rapsett.
By the time Stephanie's family arrives at the shopping center, the investigation is already underway.
It was like something on television. Never thought I would have to see it in real life, but I did.
While the family mourns, detectives try to determine how Stephanie died and quickly discover the source of the blood staining her dress.
She did have a gunshot wound in her abdomen.
There's no gun found on the scene, so investigators rule out the possibility of a suicide. They believe she's been murdered.
But why? Detectives can't immediately rule out the possibility that Stephanie had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
We had no clue what had happened, how it went down. We did know that there was a possibility this was random.
Everything had been removed from her car. They didn't have her cell phone, they didn't have her purse.
In addition to signs of a robbery, the scene also provides a possible clue about the murder weapon.
There were no shell casings on the scene.
Automatic pistols eject the empty case when firing, so detectives knew either the bullet came from a revolver or the killer removed the shell casing from the scene.
However, detectives do find one disturbing clue that could point to a possible motive.
Her underwear is off of her and rolled up on the left side of the driver's seat.
We thought that maybe it could have possibly been a rape.
But for detectives, the location of the bullet wound is perhaps the most telling piece of evidence.
She was shot in the stomach where she was pregnant.
Was this a deliberate attempt to target her unborn child?
Let's go see what the family knows.
All right.
Hoping to identify a suspect, detectives ask Stephanie's parents to come down to the station to make formal statements.
The most difficult part of this case was seeing what the family was going through. Losing not only a loved one, but an unborn child as well. So it was a double whammy for them.
And the shocks keep coming in the interview room, where detectives tell Stephanie's parents how she died.
We do believe that Stephanie's death was a homicide.
I could not believe that my daughter was shot. She didn't go to clubs, she didn't hang out in the streets. She was a good young lady. And for her to die the way she died, get shot, that didn't match her life. The way she lived and the type of person she was, the way she left this earth wasn't supposed to be.
During the interview, Stephanie's biological mother, Katie, recounts how just 24 hours earlier, Stephanie inexplicably disappeared.
When was the last time that y'all saw her?
I got home late last night and her door was closed, so I just went to bed.
But Friday morning, when Stephanie didn't get up for school, Katie realized something was wrong.
Her mom opened the bedroom door, and there was no Stephanie.
Stephanie had a reputation to be a good girl. This was not something that was regular for her to leave and not call or not report back.
Katie tells detectives that she immediately began to panic.
She's trying to remain calm, but she's not able to get in contact with her.
Her mom called our phone at 7:01 a.m.
Hey, Ricky, did Stephanie stay at your house last night?
I figured, well, maybe she stayed with one of her girlfriends.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Stephanie's mom started calling around, but none of her friends had seen her since school on Thursday, the day before.
McFadder faculty also confirmed Stephanie never showed up for classes that morning.
She got so many certificates for perfect attendance. She didn't like missing school.
Finally, just after school ended for the day, Stephanie's mother got in touch with Stephanie's boyfriend, Jermaine.
Jermaine, thank God. Have you talked to Stephanie today?
No, we hung out last night till about 10:30 or so. Didn't she come home?
After that, Stephanie's mom felt like she was all out of options, so she called Stephanie's dad, and they all went to the police station to report her missing.
And now that Stephanie has been killed, detectives have an obvious question.
In cases like this, when there's a young victim and she's pregnant, oftentimes one of the first people they look to when they're trying to eliminate suspect is the child's father.
Is Jermaine her baby's father?
Yes.
You think there's any way possible Jermaine might have had something to do with this?
Jermaine? No, he's a good kid.
Stephanie's mother had met him on multiple occasions, and he seemed like a good kid to her.
He didn't have the type of personality or background that would really make a person capable of committing something like this.
Is there anyone else that y'all can think of who would have wanted to hurt your daughter?
No. She was a sweet girl.
Everybody loves Stephanie. She was just an amazing person.
She never had an issue with anyone. She never fought. She never argued.
For Stephanie's stepmother, Betty, it's a particularly hard blow.
I had a son, Terrell. He was my only biological child. He was murdered in 2005. I raised Stephanie. You know, she called me mommy. I called her my daughter. And I had her all her life. I'm losing my daughter. I couldn't believe it.
With no other leads, detectives bring Jermaine and his mother down to the station.
Detectives didn't reveal that they had found Stephanie just yet. Instead, they let Jermaine and his family believe that she was still missing.
When we're dealing with juveniles, depending on their age, we may and may not have their parents with us. In this case, we decided to have his mother in the room with us.
It's then that detectives reveal Stephanie has been murdered. News that leaves Jermaine's mother, Sharon, stunned.
Stephanie died. It was really a terrible moment. She was very upset because the whole family was looking forward to the birth of this child.
Jermaine's reaction, on the other hand, is harder to read.
When we informed him that Stephanie was dead and the baby was dead, his reaction to that was very quiet, to himself.
His goal was to be strong after learning the news because he knew he needed to be strong.
When asked what he'd done the night before, Jermaine says he had been hanging out with his friends Micah Jenkins and Donnie Mears.
The night started off with Jermaine, Micah, and Donnie going to the football game at Miramar High School. After the football game, Jermaine is texting back and forth with Stephanie.
Jermaine said that Donnie drove him home so that he could meet up with her.
And at that time, Stephanie was already on her way down to see you. When she came into your house, did you guys hang out inside your room or anything?
Nah, she picked me up.
They went to a park, they parked the car, they were hanging out, and they did what boys and girls that age do.
I know it's kind of weird because your mom's right here, but where she wanted to have sex with you.
Yeah, but I didn't really want to.
Jermaine explained that they did become intimate. However, they didn't have sex.
What's wrong?
It just doesn't feel right, you know, with the baby and all.
You just weren't feeling it at the time.
Yeah, I was into it.
Was she mad?
Mad? No. You okay?
I'm fine.
You guys get in an argument?
No, we ain't never get in an argument.
Jermaine denied having anything to do with what happened to Stephanie and said that she dropped him home and then she left.
She didn't tell you where she was going?
She finna go home or whatever.
He said that she took him back home and that was the last time that he saw her.
Jermaine explains that after Stephanie dropped him off at approximately 10:45 p.m., he walked the block to his friend Micah Jenkins' house.
He told investigators that he was playing video games, that he was with a couple of friends.
I fell asleep, and then I woke up to my mom and them calling me. Then that's when I had went home.
With nothing more to go on, detectives let Jermaine go.
At this point, there was no reason to doubt his story, so detectives just needed to check up on his alibi.
They start by calling Jermaine's friend, Micah Jenkins. Micah confirms that Jermaine was in fact playing video games with him at his house.
Micah said Jermaine stayed there until he went home later that night and accounted for all of the time that Jermaine was apart from Stephanie until the time that he arrived back at his house.
From speaking with witnesses at the scene, detectives know that Stephanie's time of death was sometime between midnight and 1 a.m.
We had found another witness, an actual employee that had to go to work to collect her paycheck. She arrived there around midnight and left at around 1 and saw the car there.
It hadn't moved since then.
Since Micah Jenkins has confirmed that Jermaine was with him during that time frame, detectives have no choice but to cross him off the suspect list.
It would seem that Jermaine could not have committed this offense.
But if Jermaine didn't kill Stephanie, who did? Rumors of a romantic rival are about to point detectives in an entirely new direction.
They could be looking at a possible love triangle.
Jealousy can definitely lead to violence.
Hours after Stephanie Rabsat was found murdered in a parking lot in Miramar, Florida, detectives have all but ruled out the father of her unborn child, Jermaine Babs, as a suspect.
Jermaine had told us that Stephanie had left, and he did not see her for the rest of that night.
Jermaine's friend Micah confirmed that Jermaine was at his house at the time the murder took place.
With detectives' primary suspect seemingly cleared of wrongdoing, the investigation is essentially back at square one. But when Stephanie's autopsy report comes in the following morning, detectives are surprised by what it reveals.
Although investigators saw what they initially thought might have been signs of a sexual assault, there was no rape or sexual battery before she died.
Even more surprising was that the autopsy revealed that there was a gunshot to her head that detectives didn't notice on the scene.
There wasn't a lot of blood at all surrounding the gunshot. It was a small entry wound. There was no exit wound. Her hair was in braids, and it was hard for them to see it.
According to the autopsy, although the wound was small, it was most certainly fatal.
The detectives say that it was so quick that she didn't realize what happened. Like, she died right then, so she didn't suffer.
Stephanie's head wound also provides detectives with a potentially important clue.
After the autopsy, we were able to remove the projectile, which was still intact, from her body, and there was a .22 caliber class bullet.
Not only do they know the caliber of the weapon that they were looking for, ballistics might be able to match the bullet to the weapon.
Still, detectives are no closer to identifying who pulled the trigger or why.
Was there anyone else out there upset enough about Stephanie's pregnancy to want to kill her and her unborn child?
Hoping for leads, detectives reach out to Stephanie and Jermaine's friends.
Talking to students, the same story kept coming up about Thursday's football game.
Stephanie was not at that game. That was before she met with Jermaine.
At the game, Jermaine was in an altercation with a young man by the name of Patrick.
No one seemed to know what this altercation was about.
What? I said we beat the hell out y'all tonight, didn't we? Why y'all been talking to me like that, son?
According to witnesses, the incident escalated quickly.
During the incident, Patrick pulled a gun and pistol whipped Jermaine on the side of the head.
You know what it is. You know what it is.
Police at this point are wondering whether this altercation had anything to do with Stephanie.
Some of the individuals that he had the altercation with could have retaliated against him by committing this offense against Stephanie.
But that's not the only possibility detectives must consider.
Detectives were wondering if maybe the fight was over Stephanie. They wondered if they were dealing with a love triangle situation.
Any romantic relationship where there's a love triangle, there's also jealousy. And jealousy can definitely lead to violence.
That afternoon, detectives obtained permission to speak to the young man in question, Patrick Butler.
I got a pile of witnesses that saw you pistol whip Jermaine Babs.
Jermaine? That guy from Nova?
Patrick was a student at Miramar High School. The team Nova played that evening.
They were from rival high schools, and he did have a beef with him that night.
So what you know about a murder on Thursday night?
What are you talking about? Jermaine's dead?
No, but his baby mama is.
Who?
He says he doesn't know Stephanie and doesn't know anything about the murder.
As it turns out, Patrick has an airtight alibi.
The fight with Jermaine wasn't the only fight that he'd gotten into that night. He got in a fight with someone else and was actually in police custody at the time Stephanie was killed.
With Patrick ruled out as a possible suspect, detectives go back to questioning the couple's friends and make a startling discovery.
Jermaine had a girlfriend at the high school he attended.
Her name is Shayna White.
Was it possible that she saw Stephanie as a rival and killed her so that she could have Jermaine all to herself?
To learn more, detectives bring Shayna White in for questioning that evening.
Are you boyfriend and girlfriend?
Yes.
Okay. How long you guys been going steady?
Since school started.
Once they established that Shayna and Jermaine were dating, the questions then moved on to Stephanie.
What kind of relationship did he tell you he had with her? A high and by relationship.
Jermaine told her that their relationship was brief and over.
Did he tell you the girl was pregnant? Yeah. Who do you think the father was? He said it wasn't his baby.
But now detectives were wondering if Shayna found out that they were still hooking up and decided to kill Stephanie.
The answer appears to be no.
She had an alibi for the night Stephanie was killed. She tells them that she was home with her family all evening, and her family members confirm that.
Every lead detectives came across led them to a dead end.
But the investigation won't be at a standstill for long. Soon, a phone call will come in that has the potential to break the case wide open.
They could tell from his voice that something was really plaguing him. He wanted to get something off his chest.
So, no offense to you, but I'm just sick of getting lied to.
3 days into the investigation of Stephanie Rapsat's murder, detectives in Miramar, Florida are still on the hunt for the pregnant teenager's killer.
Every suspect they encountered had an alibi. The baby's father, Jermaine Babbs, the other woman, Shayna White, and the young man who'd been in a violent altercation with Jermaine just hours before Stephanie's death.
But the case takes a sudden turn when Jermaine's friend Micah Jenkins contacts the police and asks to speak with detectives.
Micah was the friend that Jermaine said he was hanging out with at the time the murder occurred.
The moment the interview starts, Micah drops a bombshell.
Micah told us that Jermaine had asked him to lie for him, to create that alibi for him.
So, no offense to you, but I'm just sick of getting lied to. Did he say why?
Nah, it's like somebody asked. It just be like, kill at my house.
Micah said he didn't think much of it at the time.
I thought a lot of his parents about not coming home that night or something.
Micah says that once he heard about Stephanie's murder, he decided to confront Jermaine.
I was like, I heard about what happened with her. Did you do it? You say that, I was like, did you do it? Like, third time. Nah, I didn't do it. I was like, alright. Yeah, I'm gonna talk to you later. I'm like, alright.
You think he's capable of something like this?
It is hard. I don't believe it. But at the same time, it's possible. Anybody capable of anything.
Does Micah's statement necessarily mean that Jermaine is the killer? That afternoon, detectives bring in Jermaine's other close friend, Donnie Mears, for questioning.
Donnie was a friend that gave Jermaine the ride home after the game on the night of the murder.
With Micah's story in their back pocket, detectives don't hesitate to lean on Donnie.
By lying, you can get yourself in a jam. And I know no one wants to get involved, man, but you know what, man? She has a loving family. They were planning a baby shower for this girl. Now they're planning a funeral, not for one person, but for two people.
Feeling the heat, Donnie starts to talk.
Detectives laid a heavy guilt trip on Donnie, and that led him to admit that around 12:30, he received a phone call from Jermaine.
He had told us that he did receive a phone call from Jermaine asking to pick him up.
It was like, the way that I see her mama, like, come get me. I need you to come get me. So I was like, all right, I had told him I just came from over there.
According to Donnie, Jermaine was not at home where he had dropped him 2 hours earlier.
I said, where you at? And he was like, oh, I'm at Swap Jaw or somewhere over there.
Swap Jaw?
Yeah.
Swap Jaw is a park in Miramar, very, very close to the crime scene.
Donnie tells detectives that he picked Jermaine up near the park a little after 12:30 a.m.
Donnie ended up picking him up about 6 blocks from where Stephanie's body was found.
This is very important now. What did he tell you?
He didn't tell me anything. I asked him, where are you coming from? And he was like, oh, from the chick house. So I was like, oh, okay. And then I just had my music blast, and that was it, all the way to the house.
Detectives aren't entirely sure they believe Donnie, though.
What was the discussion in the car about? Was it anything relating to the incident that occurred that, what he might allegedly be guilty of?
No.
Is that for sure?
Yes, that's sure, I'm sure.
Donnie said he picked Jermaine up and took him home, and that there was very little conversation about what he was doing and why he was there.
How did he seem? Did he seem nervous? What was your impression of him?
He seemed like regular. I know. He was just sitting like this the whole time.
Though Donnie's story doesn't exactly implicate Jermaine in the murder, it's still a significant breakthrough.
Donnie's admission helps investigators put Jermaine near the scene of Stephanie's murder at the time she was killed.
However, detectives sense that Donnie is still holding something back.
Is there anything we haven't asked you that you think we should know about? Well, everything he's told me is the truth?
Yeah.
We're not gonna have to come back tomorrow or the next day and ask you some more questions because we found out otherwise.
He's the piece they need to get to the truth.
There's no holding back. It's now or never.
Everything just unraveled right there.
October 5th, 2009. Detectives have just made a major breakthrough in solving the brutal murder of Stephanie Rapsat. Donnie Mears, a friend of Stephanie's boyfriend, Jermaine Babs, has placed Jermaine near the crime scene on the night of the shooting.
Donnie tells police that he got a call from Jermaine asking him to pick him up about 6 blocks from where Stephanie's body was found.
But is that all Donnie knows about Stephanie's murder?
You gotta be honest with us, man. Because by doing what you did and then covering it up, you actually helped them leave the scene.
And that's when he gave us some more information.
Oh, hell
Come
no.
on, bro, I need you.
That's gonna be our potential murder weapon.
Jermaine said that he had purchased the gun from a random individual.
All right. He gave you the gun, and what did he tell you?
He just told me hold on to it.
Did he give any reason why?
No, he gave me the reason.
And what happened then?
Donnie was not really comfortable with the idea of holding on to this gun, but he ultimately agrees to do it.
Okay, describe this gun to me.
I get it a little bit.
It's a handgun. It's a handgun? Okay, what pistol, revolver?
Detectives' ears perked up at this point. All of the evidence at the crime scene pointed to a revolver as the murder weapon.
Which leads to detectives' next question. Where is the gun now?
Donnie, after knowing now that there's a murder, got scared.
He thought he could potentially be holding the murder weapon.
What did you do with it?
He told us where the lake was and exactly where he threw the gun.
Did you hear the gun fall in the water?
Yes.
So you heard a splash?
Yes.
We had called up our dive team and said, listen, we have a potential murder weapon and we need you to dive and find it.
As the dive team searches the lake, Stephanie's cousin comes forward with new claims that cast Jermaine's attitude about fatherhood in a very different light.
Stephanie's cousin told us that he did not want her to have that baby. It was gonna ruin his life.
He wanted her to get an abortion, and she just refused, and he made it very clear that he didn't want any part of it.
She persisted in having his family accept it and having her family know and have her family accept it. I mean, she really wanted this child, regardless of what he wanted.
They're looking for somebody who has a problem with this baby being born. And the person who best fits that bill is Jermaine.
Armed with this new information, detectives decide it's time to act.
We actually went to his house and we told him that we needed to interview him again. And we took him back to the station and confront him with all this evidence.
I'll be blunt with you, man. It doesn't look good for you.
Since the dive team hadn't found it yet, detectives didn't confront him about the gun. But they did tell him that Micah and Donnie ratted him out about his alibi and the ride home after midnight.
It's either he's lying or you're lying. See, that's what we're trying to figure out.
He said that my friends are lying.
I'll be honest with you, man. I think you did it. I think you killed Stephanie.
No, I did not.
No? Nothing to do with it?
No.
No idea?
We needed to provoke him and try to get an answer out of him or get a reaction out of him. And we got none. If he truly didn't kill her, he would have been, I didn't do this, you know, getting out of the chair, yelling, I had nothing to do with this, nothing like that.
Let me ask you a question. How did you feel about having a kid?
At first, I was like, man, I can't have no kid, man. Then a couple weeks later, I was like, you know, you might as well just accept the junk, because she's not going to do nothing about it.
He had said, I don't want anything to do with this junk. And that's how he referred to the baby. To say he had misgivings is to put it extremely mildly.
Does that bother you, that your baby's now not alive?
Shit, like, in a way, it's a sigh of relief.
It couldn't happen at a better time, then.
I wouldn't say that. It's a sigh of relief.
This was a definite shock for me. Who gets relief from having their baby murdered, killed? At that point, we informed him that he was under arrest.
He was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 for Stephanie and 1 for the unborn child.
In Florida, we can charge people with murder for killing an unborn child. The prosecutor has the discretion. If we know that the mother plans to have this baby and everybody knows the mother plans to have this baby and preparations are being made, there's a baby shower, there's all these different things going on with every intention of this baby being born, and the mother is killed, resulting in the death of that baby, this person deserves to be charged with murder of the baby, not just the mother.
For Jermaine's family, the arrest comes as a shock.
He had never gotten into trouble before, and his stepfather was a Broward County Sheriff's deputy.
Everyone knew him as a good kid. No one anticipated that Jermaine would be the type of person who would commit this kind of crime.
Stephanie's school friends are shocked too.
Who would honestly expect that the father of the baby would murder her? You know, not only shoot her in the head, but shoot her in the belly. To me, that's showing, proving how much you didn't want the baby. Like, what can honestly go through your minds at the end of the day? Why would you stoop to that level? Like, what makes you want to end that life?
I was very thankful and relieved when he was arrested.
We could move on towards the next phase, which was go to the court system and let justice prevail.
As for Donnie Mears and Micah Jenkins, neither of them are charged with any crime, thanks in large part to their cooperation with detectives.
Not wanting to have their reputation be tainted as well, they cooperated with police and no longer had to be a part of this.
Jermaine's friends played an important role in this case. They played a role in developing the probable cause for his arrest.
With Jermaine now behind bars, detectives focus on strengthening their case.
At this point, they don't have any physical evidence. They need to find the gun.
But as the search for the murder weapon continues, detectives worry that the case against Jermaine could fall apart.
And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I want to find this gun. We need this. We need this for our case.
Though Jermaine Babs is behind bars for the murders of his girlfriend Stephanie Rapsat and their unborn son, Florida detectives are worried that the case against him won't stick.
After days of searching, they still hadn't found the revolver that Jermaine supposedly asked his friend to hold on to the night of the murder.
The friend panicked and got rid of it in a lake.
During the search, the first day went by and no gun was found. The second day went by and no gun was found. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I want to find this gun. This is our potential murder weapon. And we need this for our case.
Finally, on the third day of the search, one of the divers spots something at the bottom of the lake.
The revolver was recovered around the same area where Donnie had thrown the gun.
It is a .22 caliber gun, which is the same caliber weapon used to kill Stephanie and her unborn son.
Inside the revolver, detectives find 4 live rounds and 2 empty shell casings.
Stephanie sustained 2 gunshot wounds, and now you have here 2 bullets that were fired from that revolver.
The remaining 4 bullets were nearly identical to the ones that were pulled from Stephanie's body.
Prosecutors believe this is enough to press forward with charges and announce that they plan to try Jermaine as an adult.
It's not unusual at all for prosecutors in Florida, and in Broward County in particular, to charge people under the age of 18 as adults when it's a serious felony. And in this case, obviously, a first-degree murder is going to qualify.
If convicted, Jermaine faces an automatic life sentence.
Because he was 17, he was not eligible for the state to seek the death penalty.
In January of 2012, 3 years after Stephanie's murder, the trial of Jermaine Babs gets underway. Prosecutors assert that Jermaine killed Stephanie and his unborn child without hesitation or remorse.
The motive in this case was Jermaine not wanting to be a father. And that's why he killed Stephanie.
Prosecutors believe that on the night of the murder, Stephanie dropped Jermaine off at his house, but Jermaine persuaded her to meet back up a few hours later.
We believe that Jermaine had walked to go meet Stephanie somewhere else so that she can pick him up. And the reason we believe that he did that was he wanted to avoid having any witnesses saying that, yes, Jermaine was with Stephanie at this particular time.
Once they'd reunited, Stephanie drove them to the shopping center.
I think she thought they were supposedly going to talk or have sex.
Is this good?
Perfect.
Prosecutors claim that while Stephanie removed her underwear, Jermaine got out of the car.
She was completely unaware of what was about to happen.
Jermaine.
He had an agenda. His agenda was, I'm going to kill her tonight.
Jermaine.
He fired 2 times. One in her head to kill Stephanie, and one in Stephanie's abdomen to kill the baby. I think that sends a strong message that he didn't want that baby.
To shoot the mother of your child, her stomach out to here, gonna give birth in a month. He's sick.
When it's the defense's turn, they counter that there's no definitive proof that Jermaine was the one who fired those shots.
Because there was no direct evidence, everything was circumstantial. The defense argued that it must have been someone else who committed the crime.
But is there enough reasonable doubt to sway the jury? After only 90 minutes of deliberation, they reach a decision.
When the jury came back with the verdict, it was guilty. And it was like...
It was glorification. I was happy that it came back out quick. I just felt that justice will prevail, and justice did prevail.
Outside the courtroom, everybody was just hugging everybody. It was a good feeling. It was a very good feeling. They were so thankful that they actually got a plaque made for my unit, thanking us for the amazing job that we did on this case. And that plaque right now sits in our lobby in a display case of our police department.
Convicted of double murder, Jermaine Babs is given a mandatory life sentence. But in June of 2012, a Supreme Court ruling puts him back in front of a judge.
The Supreme Court said, you can sentence a juvenile convicted of murder to life in prison. However, you cannot do that in a mandatory way.
Jermaine's original mandatory life sentence was vacated, and the judge chose to issue a new sentence.
He was sentenced to 50 years in prison.
He needs to serve 85% of the time that he's sentenced to. The rest, he is able to get good behavior and things like that. He's going to spend a long time in prison, but it won't be the rest of his life unless something happens to him between now and then.
That was disappointing. We know he killed Stephanie. We know he killed Jaden. He do not need to have freedom ever again. After what he did.
But no matter the punishment, nothing will ever bring back the 2 lives taken so senselessly that tragic October night.
I just wonder how Stephanie's life would be now if she was here, her and Jaden. Jaden will be 9 this year. She'll probably have her own place, and I think she'll have a happy life.
I could see them doing great things and just so much greatness. She would have been a real good asset to the world. I lost a lot. We lost a lot.